Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about a multitude of things. But first, I wish to thank all of Jackrabbit's subscribers, as we are finally over 75 and well on the way towards 100. This is a major accomplishment and a significant milestone towards providing resources for AT and her medical needs. I know she has greatly appreciated of everything that has been done for her and grateful to all of Jackrabbit's subscribers for their help. So thank you from her and from me as well. Let's start with the BTC chart and the crazy price action. As you can see, it has been a severe roller coaster the last couple of months and has caught a lot of people by surprise with deep accumulations. I'm going to run through a few recipes that I use and have switched through to help mitigate some of these crazy ups and downs. First, let's start with the Dca Module. A lot of people are thinking that stop loss may be a better option, and depending upon your trading, it might be. My trading is accumulation based, and that fits my own personal risk assessment significantly better than a stop loss that ultimately ends up just causing me more in the long run than what I earn. So I have learned over the years of my own trading that, in all honesty, nothing beats a good dollar cost averaging approach. But it all hinges upon the recipe. So now we have our Dca module. There are several different ways we can go from here. The easiest and the simplest is just go with the classic momentum. And I will show you one particular momentum that I personally like and find it very defensive. So let's go through and get all of the basics done. Make sure everything is on historic. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Now I'm going to tune the Dca module to my preferred settings. Now, it is important that you take careful attention to exactly what you are trying to achieve. For me, a simple and modest 2% take profit and a 2% deviation works well for a budget of $600. But I have been using a budget of $300 lately. So that gives me 25 positions to exhaust the entire volume of any given coin. This is an extremely defensive approach. And as you can see, it does fairly well. Now this is the step method, and it works well with what I like. Now this is a simple crossover. Let's get down here and tune this. I always prefer a split channel momentum because I believe it provides better opportunities. Now let's go with a very repressive or defensive approach. This is pretty much the maximum duration of the time frame you're in. And as you can see, setting this very much limits a lot of things. So let's come down here. Actually, I want to go back into this. Now this is not so much a trend follower until we invert the signals. Now it's a trend follower. Inverted signals do well for trend following. And as you can see, it does an extremely good job, albeit very aggressive. Now this trick and technique of using take profit allows it to scalp very rapidly, but very defensively. So we are not going to exceed a $300 budget, but yet you can see the results. 84 completed trade cycles with a maximum of 3 purchases per cycle as of this analysis. Using the golden equation, rounding up to the nearest 10, and then doubling it, it gives you a clear number of minimum budget to prepare yourself for this. But really, because we are using a deviation of 4%, you're not going to go above 25 positions. 25 times 4 is 100. This covers 100% of the volume of the coin. Now, this doesn't really show this drop very well here. It shows it, but not significantly. Let's move down to a lower time frame where this drop is extenuated much more significantly. And as you can see, this simple approach rides it out quite generously. And it only takes on 4 positions and still does well with its trade cycles. And we haven't even really tuned this completely. Let's go down to the 5 minute. And as you can see, again, very muted and moderate, and yet it still does a very nice number of trades. But now let's finish tuning this. Most of the time when I use momentum, I prefer either SSMA or SMMA as my momentum driver. And I prefer both channels. Your moving average has a lot of functionality that you need to be aware of and calculate in as part of your trading cycles. So as you change various moving averages, you will have very significant changes in the way the algorithm functions. As I said, this is one of the simplest and yet most effective tools for getting in and out of the market on a reasonable level. It really just depends on what you are trying to achieve. And you can use both at once or mix it up. So there are different combinations that you can produce, different scenarios and situations. This case, it lowered the trade count, which means it probably is more defensive by the way it is split channeled. Let's actually take a closer look at this in the fast and slow lines. And as you can see, it does a pretty significant job. of filtering out a lot of unwanted stuff. But that is the point of momentum. Momentum is meant to find the direction of the market, and this is an excellent way of doing it. So now let's, for the sake of consistency, I'm going to use SSMA for both. Now this is a single confirmation momentum. Now we can either do a double confirmation on the market capital or a double confirmation with a higher time frame. I'm going to go with a higher time frame because it just does a better job. So we're going to do the same thing with the confirmation, split channel, because it provides better results. And for the time frame, I'm going to choose 237-minute candle. Now that is literally 3 minutes below the 4-hour candle. And there's a reason specifically for picking this number. First, it's a prime number. Second, because it's just under the 4-hour candle, it's less susceptible to harvesting. And now I'm going to use a different moving average. Okay, let's go to momentum. And the same numbers as above, 4320. Full saturation of the time frame. And as you can see, right here, no trades took place. So that is the point and pivot of having such an extreme, is we can actually begin to dwindle it down. Let's set everything so we have all of the bars right. And now that we have everything lined up properly, you'll notice we only have 1 trade per cycle and only 4 trade cycles. Notice that the entire drop is completely missed, but yet it found an entry and a profit. Using this type of confirmation, you can easily see how it's possible to filter out and reduce noisy and unwanted problems. So if we go back to the 1-hour candle, you'll notice that no trades are in place right now. But yet it was in trades. Let's see if we can find the last trade it made. And here we go. This is the kind of process that you want for defensiveness. And a lot of people have asked over the last couple of days how to be defensive in the market. This is how. Use a defensive recipe that does well. And by doing well, it stays out of the market. Now that's not always what somebody wants to hear when you're trying to trade for a living. But the advantage of this kind of a recipe is you can pick coins that generally aren't that good of trading. Simply because you know the recipe is going to be repressive and it's not going to trade frequently. You know, if you stay with your exchange minimum position size, that this recipe is going to be extremely limited. So you will be able to use this recipe on multiple coins and have a very clear and concise risk limitation. And that is the point of what these kind of recipes are designed to do. When the market is completely south, you stay out of it. When the market changes directions, you get in and start accumulating. This is the perfect defensive recipe for that process. And that is the whole point of this kind of a recipe. This is an extreme trend following approach. And it works well, simply by avoiding a lot of the unwanted cycles. So as you can see, when the market is trending in the right direction, it makes purchases. But as soon as the market turns against you, it stays completely out of it. That is what you want. So if you're looking for a defensive position, this kind of approach is perfect. Jackrabbit is able to deliver this on a very simple level. And you can build on this basic process right here and take it to the next step with ADX, ATR, Bollinger's, MACD, or any of the other recipes within Jackrabbit. Any of the other modules within Jackrabbit. So, this is how you limit your exposure. Don't be caught by surprise with the market. You may have one or two really aggressive recipes, but having most of your recipes like this to offset your aggressive recipes gives you a chance to always profit from the market in all conditions. And most importantly, it gives you the opportunity to limit and mitigate your risk. Don't be caught by surprise by a market that is unpredictable. Understanding momentum is important. Understanding a long duration momentum, like a length of 4320, is critical, because using such a large momentum slows down the entire process significantly, even on lower time frames, because it stretches out the duration of your momentum so that it watches the entire cycle, not just a small window of it. And as you can see, coins that are normally not worth trading are doing very well with very little accumulation. The biggest thing I see with people trading in the market is they don't have their portfolio balanced. They are either always too conservative or too aggressive. And you really need to have a balance between an aggressive recipe and a conservative recipe. For example, if you use an extreme aggressive recipe, you should balance that with 3 or 4 conservative recipes. That way you have the approach so that if the aggressive recipe is stuck in a sideways channel accumulation, the conservative recipes are still ticking away when opportunity seizes them. It is important that you remember not to think in daily percentages. And that is what leads a lot of people into trouble, is they think they need X percentage per day per profit. For example, if somebody wants to break even with a $3.50 per day balance, then that means they have to make $3.50 each and every day. That is not realistic. You need to rethink that kind of an approach, because that sets you up for missing opportunities that lead you to deep accumulations that might take months to clear. Having 1 or 2 coins stuck in a deep accumulation is fine as long as you have 5 or 6 coins that are ticking along, pulling in these kind of profits on a regular basis. The market is always in flux. That influx always has a price. How you achieve your profit is important when you look at that influx. So, as you progress, be sure you take a look at your approaches and your balance to those approaches. Sometimes the best resource to the market is simply trusting the algorithm not to be in it. That's not always an easy process when you're trying to live on your trading, but it's better to skip the drop and pick up later on down the line than to be stuck in a channel that takes months to clear. It is also important to think about your budget, particularly if you don't have a large budget. As I've said, this particular recipe has a maximum budget of $300. So that means with a simple $1,200 budget, I can safely trade 4 coins. And given that these coins are very limited, I could probably push a few more on top of it for the stronger coins. Plus, when you see repressive algorithms in work like this, where price action is just a hot mess, this tells you this coin is something you need to avoid. Avoiding assets is just as important as picking good quality ones. Not all assets are going to be profitable. In fact, most of them are not. Trading liquidity and volume are critical to any successful trading paradigm. This kind of a repressive recipe can help you see that very clearly. You can measure the mark of the recipe by how many trade cycles it gets. So far, our average trade cycles have been 4 to 5 for most coins. So that has become a benchmark of reliability for a lot of good coins. Some coins may produce higher, while others may not. But it is still a good level of looking at the coins based upon the information you see. Trade consistency is more important than trading volume. Here is a good example of a coin that is just a hot mess, and what I call a side channel coin. As you can see, it sells off, it gets in here, and then from here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. It stays in a complete side channel. And then when the market changes directions, it pumps off quickly and makes some good profits along the way. But throughout that entire process, at an $11 position size, its highest accumulation was only $22. These kinds of coins can sit and clear off the books while you trade other coins. And that is a critical and significant point. It is these little nuances when you set up your recipes that can help you maximize exactly which coins to trade. Sometimes the fastest approach or the most aggressive approach can be the worst approach because it requires the highest budget. When you are thinking about your approach and your recipes, simplicity and stability are critical. This particular one doesn't do very many trades, but it also only uses one single position. So this is a good ideal of a coin that may not be a typical coin, but worth investing in simply because it doesn't require too much equity. Always think about what your goals are before you begin trading. Always look at your coins, research them, understand them, know why you are trading them. Don't trade them just because this says it makes 12 cycles in 1 month's period. That's not a good enough reason to trade it. Trading means you need to understand the asset you're trading, because sometimes not understanding the asset could give you a coin that is just a significant hot mess. Now, a lot of people would take a look at this and cry over it because they got out and missed this profit. Don't chase profits. This could have very easily gone the way this did and taken a deep accumulation. This is acceptable. This is profit. This is done. This is minimum risk. This is what you should be looking for. Don't worry about what you don't get. If you leave profit on the table, fine, because you're going to be crying if this went the other way and this happened to be right here, taking on a huge number of accumulations. Twitter is filled with those kind of people. Don't let yourself fall into the trap. You have a profit, it's quick, it's short, you're out. Be glad you have that profit. Think about the next one, not what you could have had. I would rather have absolute profit versus the potential that I may never see. As you progress, again, you see the same thing here. As you progress, think about exactly what your goals are and stay with your goals. Risk will automatically wreck your portfolio. And if you take on too much of it or you overextend your budget, you are going to be in a world of hurt. Don't allow yourself to fall into those traps. Take your time, study the charts, study the coins. Here's a good example of a whole mess that got completely missed. Let's see when the last trade was that this actually did. Here is the last trade this coin did. It got out with a clean profit, and it's just been sitting there waiting for the next reasonable opportunity. Don't underestimate an opportunistic simplicity such as this, and don't overestimate your budget. Now, as you can see, I've been going through these coins one by one, highlighting certain things. That's what you need to do when you're picking your recipes. Don't be focused on one coin. Don't think that you're going to specifically want to pick one specific approach for one coin and that's it. that's not always the best way to trade. Sometimes by searching around, you can find a good coin or a good opportunity that can give you some unprecedented results that you would not have otherwise seen. Again, study the charts. Take your time. Plan out your risk assessment. Think about your budget. Could I make this recipe more aggressive? Yes, I could. I could drop my deviation to 1%, and then I would have a $1,200 budget per coin. That would mean more accumulation and more profit. It's simple, it's easy to accomplish that. So as you progress, pay attention to the details. Keep your eye focused on the goal. The goal is minimum risk. For a budget like this, with good quality coins, where I don't see anything above 3 positions throughout every single coin I've chosen, I very well might consider trading 10 coins on this and just watching them carefully. Now, that does overextend your budget, and you do need to be aware of the risks when you do that, meaning you have a plan on which coins you will take a loss on if you need to recover assets quickly. In this case, if I chose this coin, this would be a coin I would take at a loss in order to get better accumulation out of another coin. Those trade-offs are what help you maximize your budget. But the safest approach would be to consider 5 positions per coin and then trading a minimum of 4 coins. I should say trading a maximum of 4 coins. That gives you a little extra just in case. But again, keeping your risks limited is critical. Let's see if I can find a really treacherous coin. A coin that has a history of absolute chaos. Ooh. Well, Civic is one of them. And yet, even with Civic, you can see it's not what I want. Very limited exposure. And you can see it missed the entire mess. And Civic is a hard coin to get out of. Let's check out another nightmare coin. I've seen people get wrecked over this coin. And yet, here, it's perfect. So, you can be aggressive, but you should also be conservative and defensive. Simple approaches like this one can help you when the market is unpredictable. So while you have your aggressive recipe in the background chugging away, you have the balance of defensive recipes like this one holding the anchor and keeping the ship from getting out of control. I cannot emphasize the importance of following each of these steps carefully. Take your time. Do your research. Until next time.